admin committee states that it's live in 4 minutes. The test went through.
Yes. Okay, we're good.
Okay, thank you, Annette. All right, we'll call this administration committee to order at 12:31. Very good. And Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Curran,
I am present via Zoom, Niles Township.
Commissioner Meeks,
Present via Zoom, Ben Charter Township.
Commissioner Volrath,
I'm here on Zoom, Columba.
and Commissioner Werfel. Am I saying that correctly?
Werfel.
Werfel. Sorry.
Yeah, President Zoom, Railton Township.
Chairman Curran, you have 4 here.
All 4 of us are here. Great. Thank you, Jennifer. And for Dave and Julie, this is the first time maybe you've seen Jennifer. She is actually our recording secretary for the admin committee. So good to see you again, Jennifer.
It's good to have use of my arm again.
That's
Hi,
good.
Jennifer.
Hi.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the road department. Jason. And Jason, I have a couple questions for you before you begin, if you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Hey, would you take just a minute and explain what PHSC approved this morning, an operations engineer for your department? Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, so the operations engineer, we took to PHSC, well, I want to say that was back in September, October timeframe. And the operations engineer position is really an engineering position that's pretty well recognized in the road industry as kind of a go-between between maintenance and the normal engineering construction program, kind of helps link them together. So that position was created and approved, like I said, back in the late summer, early fall, and we advertised, and we have a good candidate that is currently working in Illinois, and PHSC approved a step 3 higher entry point. So we're going to be making that offer, and we have our fingers crossed to see if we can get that filled.
Okay, great. Yeah, because when you brought that to us, there's 2 new commissioners on this committee that maybe we're not aware that you had brought this
Oh,
to
right.
us. And I don't remember, is this position replacing Brian or John Greco?
So we kind of changed the org chart a little bit. So it's not really replacing either. We actually had another engineering position available, but for all intents and purposes, we could say replacing Brian, I guess.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, because I've still got the last organizational chart you provided us, and I was just curious as to where this position fits in.
Okay,
So-
well, you know what, how about I get, I reprint, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna have copies of that for the 2 new commissioners tomorrow morning. They're gonna swing by. So I have a packet of information to them, and you know what I can do? I could probably just update that and get it to you guys as well.
Okay, and that kind of leads right into my second question. How did you plan to address the questions that we submitted to you?
So what I can do is either before or after probably after the presentation, I can kind of just go, you guys have a copy of them. I can either read the question or at least say, question number 1 and summarize it, and then let you know what my thoughts are on responding to it.
Okay, so you prefer to do that after the presentation?
Yeah, that'd probably be better.
Okay, great. Then you're on. Go right ahead, Jason. Thanks.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you. So I'm going to figure out how to share my screen. It worked yesterday.
I think Commissioner Meeks, did you have a question? I saw you.
I did have a question. I thought we was gonna skip the presentation because the full board had already seen it. We had seen this before. So I thought we were gonna skip the presentation and basically go into answering the questions. but it's okay if this rest of the board will go through. I don't know. Julie, I don't think you've seen it.
She has not.
Okay, so, well, all right then, I guess we should go through with it.
Okay.
That's what I
thank-
thought too, Donnie, but if our chair thinks we should see this first, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
and that's
okay.
fine, Don. Yeah,
Let's get Judy on board then, okay.
okay. Yeah, go ahead, Jason. Just keep it
All
short.
right. Yeah, but yeah, I'll jump right in. And this is good. This is a good reminder. Honestly, this is something that I'd be more than happy to do, whether it's at the full board or at least with you guys on a yearly basis, just to kind of keep it fresh in your mind. But we're going to jump right in with that's the crew right there that gets it done. So we're going to be talking about winter maintenance. Right off the bat, people probably see this innately just driving around, but we prioritize how we clear snow and ice. And obviously the primary roads are the busiest, obviously have the most traffic, the most businesses. So those are the number one priority. We always hit them first. And then the secondary roads actually come second. And some people call them township roads. And those are, historically, those were literally township roads. They weren't county roads back in the day. And then comes the residential streets, the subdivisions. And one of the main reasons for that prioritization is I know a lot of townships, they really want to support the subdivisions, and they're like, well, can you get in there first? And if you look at emergency response or even the movement of goods, most ambulances don't cut through a subdivision to get to the hospital. You know what I mean? A lot of subdivisions are dead ends. So really the main purpose of the transportation network is just that. It's a network because we got to be able to connect to businesses and you name it. So network is the key, and most subdivisions do not support a network. So that's the prioritization. Our crews start at 7 a.m. and we work Monday through Friday. We have 4 garages, so we have 4 foremen, 45 operators. And then obviously when our guys are here, whether it's weekends or not, we have our mechanics are here as well. So that's one shop foreman and 4 mechanics. So that's our day shift. And then our night shift, it's 1 foreman and 4 operators. So they just run 4 routes, which are really just the county primaries. And that night shift is just in the winter. So if we have a snowstorm predicted and it's going to snow after 6 p.m., so that means the day shift is at home. We have our night crews are out and they're monitoring what's going on and they're plowing the primaries. The other really important thing that they do is if there happens to be an accident or a tree down or there's something going on the road network, the dispatch knows to call the night foreman, and that crew will take care of whatever issue is going on in the middle of the night. And the benefit of that is we're not waking up the guys that have to work all day the next day to come in the middle of the night. So it's pretty important to have that small group of people on nights during the winter, just to make sure that the guys that work during the days aren't getting woken up. The other things that they can do is certainly make sure that our trucks are fueled and loaded with salt and sand. So they're very helpful, that night crew, to make sure everything's up and ready for the day shift. So if it is snowing and it's perceived to be enough snows coming that we really need to jump on it and maybe get out early, the night foreman calls our superintendent, usually 2 o'clock in the morning, and says, you know what, it does look like it's bad. Can you get the guys in early? So instead of having the guys start 7:30, we'll bring them in at 4 a.m. So that call usually goes out between 2:30, maybe as late as 3 a.m., but no later than that, to make sure we can have everybody here at 4 a.m. To start running primaries. So like I said, we start primaries first, and we'll get day shift in if it's snowing at 4 a.m., get them on top of things. And the one thing to point out, as it snows, if it's going to snow all day, let's say you get 5-6 inches, you can have blowing and drifting. So you can run all your primaries, and then that same driver might have to get back and rerun the primaries again just to keep them open. So it's not just you start here at the beginning and then, after several hours you're done. You have to really understand what direction is the wind blowing, how hard is it snowing, what roads, is it north, south, east, west roads, where are areas where you might be getting drifts. So there's a lot going on that the driver needs to be aware of as they're moving through the routes. But again, primary routes are the number one. Then we get to secondaries, and then we'll jump into subdivisions. And if it is snowing, we do have 24-hour coverage. So we'll get our day shift in at 4 a.m. We'll make our day shift work till 4:30 p.m. So that's a 12.5-hour shift. And then instead of our night shift starting at 6, we'll bring them in at 4:30 and we'll make them work till 4 a.m. the next morning. So even though it's just the one foreman and 4 guys at night, it's still 24 hours a day. The full 24 hours is covered during snow events.
Jason?
Yep.
Hey, this might be a good time for question number 7 on the list. Are there any restrictions that doesn't allow you for better staffing in the event of a snow after 6 p.m.? Because according to your slides here, your figures, from 4:30 p.m. to 4 a.m., you've only got 1 truck per garage running 1 route.
Correct.
That doesn't seem very efficient. Doesn't seem like it's a good use of personnel. Are there restrictions as to why you can't put more personnel when you know it's going to snow after 6 and holding 45 people until 4:30 a.m.?
Well, absolutely. We could, and it depends on the snowstorm. It depends on a lot of those factors. But if it's going to be snowing after 6, the actual number of people out driving after 6 p.m. on county primaries, pretty low, not too many at all. And it would, from a cost perspective and from a maintaining the roads, really, you start out 4 a.m., you can get through everything. So certainly everybody can get to work the next day.
I think I would disagree with that statement. Because the feedback we're getting is that a lot of the secondary roads are getting plowed late, much later, and subdivisions are sometimes as much as 4 or 5 days later. So it just seems like better utilization of that personnel at night and spreading out the personnel, I guess, because it would appear that the staffing the way it is now is not sufficient to get the job done. I guess that's my question. And
well, yeah.
So restrictions that prevent you from doing that.
No, I mean, we could hire 200 more people or 300. I mean, we could hire a lot more people.
I'm not talking about hiring anybody. I'm talking about a more efficient deployment of your personnel.
So from an efficiency standpoint, we're as efficient as you can possibly be. And
well,
can I adjust that question from Jim a little bit? You say
you're
as efficient as you can be, but what is that based on? What is that measurement? What is that measurement of efficiency? And how are you compared to that?
So the best thing we can do is compare ourselves to other county road commissions, right? I mean, so a county primary here and a county primary in Oakland, or a county primary in, Saginaw, from a travel standpoint, like when are cars out on the road? So for example, the Martin Luther King Day, I drove around that night, 8 o'clock, 8 to 10. So 2 hours of driving around, saw very few cars. I drove Red Arrow all the way to New Buffalo. I think on Red Arrow, I don't think I saw more than 2 cars on Red Arrow, and I was on Red Arrow for 20 minutes. So I could have 4 or 5 guys up and down that all day, or all, that 2-hour period or that evening for 2 cars. Like that would not be efficient, I guess is my point. So what we're looking at is I can't have drivers working all night and then working all day. So from CDL standpoint, you can only drive so many hours a day. So the most important, I think we'd agree, the most important time that people will be out driving, that commerce, schools, all that activity, 4 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., probably the busiest. And then the least busiest would be at night. So that's why we concentrate our maintenance staff during the day as opposed to at night. And I think even this last storm that we got, we can run all the primaries, and if it's still snowing, 2 hours later, it doesn't look like you ran them, if that makes sense. So that's
But
why
I
we
think
run.
that, but Jason, I think that's part of the point, is they're going back to the primaries, or they're staying on the primaries, and they're not getting to those secondary roads, so that when the traffic does begin, they have not gotten to the point to where they can efficiently get to the local roads, so that, the kids can get to school, the buses can get out, that type of thing. And when I say restrictions, I'm talking about deployment of existing personnel. Are there union contracts that prevent you from moving people around?
No, we can move people around, we can do things, but what that's going to do is take away people from during the day. So when there's more people on the road, we're going to have less coverage if I concentrate people at night. There are restrictions in terms of how many hours you can drive. Like, we won't run more than a 12-hour shift. I mean, it's hard to drive a truck for 12 hours straight and then still be ready the next day to drive potentially 12 more hours.
Okay, then explain to me on utilization of personnel, where currently you don't get to subdivisions until sometimes 4 and 5 days after a snow event. Secondary
where are
roads,
you hearing
sometimes a
your-
whole day or 2 after a snow event. How is your current deployment sufficient, and is that acceptable, I guess?
So I don't think we've ever taken 4 days. I don't even think we've ever taken 3 to get to a subdivision.
I
2
would certainly disagree with that, because I can tell you 2 of them right now, and they're
Okay.
not in my area.
Okay.
But continue, Jason.
Well, good. No,
Don't go
and
about
share that information with me so we can double check it. The most important thing. So, just for the fun of it, I mean, you see the picture right there that's on the screen. Is that acceptable? I mean, like, we have to figure out what it is that you think would be acceptable or not acceptable. To really to understand what the issue is. The road that you're looking at in that picture is completely drivable. You can do whatever you need to do on that road. Emergency vehicles can go down it. You can deliver food down it. You can, have your groceries delivered. You can deliver your medicine, can get to you. So there are winners. We haven't had one in a few years where we had county primaries look like that for a month. So I think the thing to think about is what's the level of that we're shooting for.
Well, if that's what the primary looks like for a month, I can just imagine what the secondary and subdivisions look like. They probably haven't been snowed at all, or haven't been plowed at all. That's my point.
So I guess from my standpoint, I drove the last 3 storms. I drove several subdivisions, several secondary roads, and several primaries. Every single one of them within 24 hours, 48 at the most, was completely passable and had been touched. I didn't see any that weren't touched. And if one wasn't touched, it might have had 2 inches of snow on it, which is still completely passable.
Okay, let's move on.
Well, I want to ask a question before you move
Okay, I'm
on.
sorry, Don, go right ahead.
Well, over the years, we have changed because it changed the policy of plowing because of the amount of monies that we're receiving. But since then, I think we got back with like the Act 51 money. We started getting more money in, but we never went back to increase the plowing and things that we used to do. So we're still doing the things, basically, let's say that we're doing the things that compared to where we had to meet our budget. But now our budget is higher. So now my thing is I'm thinking about safety. That's what I'm thinking. And we also, we're in a kind of different area. We get lake effect snow. It can snow right here and it don't snow 10 miles somewhere else. And I'm just kind of concerned about the primary roads. The primary roads are really the important roads. Maybe you can get out the subdivision, but we don't know when we're going to have a fire. We don't know when somebody's going to have a heart attack or what. So the thing is, I want to get back to, if we got the funding, get back to safety.
Right.
So my thing is we need to kind of relook at our policies.
Mr. Chairman.
Update our policies. Now we got a little more funding, but maybe we can do a little more. So I just want to kind of say that, but I think we have changed from the past.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Don. Brian, did you have something for me?
Yeah, I know that this can be a passionate issue. Just for the good of the order, I would request that if you all allow Jason to just move through his presentation. I've got all of the written questions. I can put those up on the screen and you can go through them one by one.
Okay, I just thought it was appropriate because that slide depicted the question or precipitated the question number 7. So, I hear you, Brian. Thank you. Jason, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. And one thing, I'm going to double check. I mean, certainly, like I said, my goal is to be the best road department in the state, period, hands down. So my bar is the highest. You're not going to find another road commission that they've set their bar higher than I've set it for our staff. So I can guarantee you that. And I'll look into it to make sure that we're not setting up the bar too low or that we're falling behind. But I can tell you, I've looked at other counties and I've done some other drive-throughs, and we're definitely above them, which is my goal.
Okay,
So priority 3 routes, obviously we've gone through that quite a bit. We the last 2 snowstorms, the one obviously during the week, we got through everything in day 1, which is perfect. It's the weekend and holidays that are a little bit tougher. But like I said, we have 24-hour coverage, certainly during the week when it snows. And then we call people in as necessary on weekends and holidays. So, and we get a snowstorm on a Sunday or a Saturday, and we run 5 to 10 or 4 to 9. So like Christmas, 4 a.m., those guys, they weren't home in bed. They were out plowing on Christmas morning. Same New Year's, they plowed day after New Year's. And then Martin Luther. So all of those events were in the $60,000 range that obviously needed to be done, wasn't during normal business hours. That's the cost of snow removal to make roads passable. Usually a bigger issue, we've gotten, I've shared this with Brian, a bunch of really nice emails the last couple of weeks, thanking our guys for doing an exceptional job and getting snow off the roads. I mean, it sounds like I should be sharing that with more than just Brian, because from the public's standpoint, the feedback I'm getting is very positive. Mailboxes are tough. Mailboxes, when someone's mailbox is knocked over, people usually get pretty upset, but we tried to make people aware that in October, they should go out and shake their mailbox, make sure it's really sturdy. We do not replace mailboxes unless the actual snowplow ran into it. Then we'll replace it. But, 99.9% of the time, it's just the snow that's being, pushed into the air that hits the mailbox, and that's what knocks it down. And we're not responsible for that.
How about trash receptacles?
So yeah, so the policy
Either
basically,
full or empty.
yeah, if you put your trash can out there, it can get hit by snow, and we can't stop and move it. We'd never get any plowing done if that were the case. So yeah, snow on trash pickup days is a bad thing, but our guys are really good. They honestly understand what's out there and do their best. And I couldn't be happier with the work that they do and their dedication, because we've had some big storms 2 years ago, huge storm, and we had some icing issues last year. This year, a bunch of little ones, but I do feel like we've been on top of things. Other tips here, I won't have to go into too much detail, but they're here for you guys to take a look at. Really, if we can get cars not on the street, that's a good thing, because then we can really get the snow off the road without, weaving in and out of parked cars. Letting people know not to shovel or plow their driveway and push that snow into the road. That is a hazard. That's not a good thing. And certainly we don't want kids playing in big snow piles next to the road. And drainage is always an issue. If you have an inlet in front of your house, it's great to kind of keep that clear, because if it gets iced over or clogged, that can create some issues. And then certainly assisting in the fire hydrant snow removal, that's always a good thing. It helps you as the homeowner if the fire folks can get to that easily. But from a garage standpoint and area, you can see our 4 garages cover quite a bit of area each. So in essence, there's about 10 people at each one of those garages. So that's only 10 snowplows that have to cover that much area. So it's a lot. And I think I can get the numbers for you, but in essence, MDOT has only 10% of the road network, if that. And county road agencies have 90% of the road network. So if you look at what MDOT would have to take care of for state routes here, they'd have 3 times the people, but 1/10 the roads, if that makes sense. So if you try to compare us to MDOT, it's not even, they have orders of magnitude more money and people than we do, and way less roads. So it's not even apples to apples. It's not even fruit to fruit. It's more like bowling balls to Christmas trees. So want to end on a little bit of the service request side of things. This is the best way to communicate with us and let the public know. But if the public has an issue and brings it up to you guys, just let them know that they can give us a call, or they can get online and they can put in a service request. So if there happens to be a neighborhood that doesn't think their road's been plowed, put it in, let us know. We'll check it out. In 2019, we had 3,000 service requests that were all reviewed and responded to. 2020, we're at 2,000. I don't know if that's just less people driving. I kind of think our road conditions getting better. I think I can dive into these details. And when I used to meet with you guys a little bit more regularly, I tried to give you that update on service requests, because this really lets us know if we have a great network that's our pavement's in good shape and everything's mowed, there's not a lot to put in a service request for. So this has been going down. So I think our service has been going up. And this is the best way to get us. We do have a service request hotline. Leave a message, Adria will get it, she'll log it. And the nice thing about it is if you put enough information, give us enough information, we can get back with you and let you know when the work has been performed. The double-edged sword with service requests is you don't want to be 100% proactive. We need to be, or you don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive. So having a reactive service like this always makes me nervous because it takes a lot of time to react to things like that. And if we have planned maintenance work and planned and scheduled work, we really need to plan our work and work our plan.
Yeah, and if I might comment on that, Jason, it's
Yep.
been a while since I've done it, but going online and filling out the service request and sending it in, I thought was a very good idea because a lot of times I would send them in on behalf of a citizen. And someone from the road department would always send me back a response and say, it's been taken care of. And so then I knew that to the citizen, I could tell them that it's been taken care of as well. And I thought that was a very good system you got in place.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm hoping to dive into a little bit more to give you guys some more feedback on how it's working and some of the analytics behind what we're getting done. But I would say our system and how we respond to people and what we have in place and how well, Adrian, my staff, from Don, you name it, they're all part of this and we're reviewing those. I think we're tops in the state. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't think there's another road commission that's as proactive as we are in terms of coordinating service requests. And another thing that I think we're really good at is the social media side, letting people know what we're doing. We have over 10,000 followers on Facebook. So before this last storm, I know we posted about pre-treating roads. We did a pre-treatment, which is innovative and new. There's other innovative things that we're doing to get better at what we do. So I don't ever want you to think that status quo is good enough. Like I said, I want to be the best road department in the state. So to be the best road department in the state, we have to act like a road department and we have to do what good road departments do. So I have a playbook and we're rolling that out. And one of the things is social media and making sure we get the message out of informing the public. So that's the presentation. We can jump into questions. Brian, did you say you might want to pull that up? I can stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if you're okay, what I'll do is put the admin committee's questions that were sent to Jason up on the screen and he can go through them one by one.
Okay, either that or you don't need to, Brian. I mean, Jason's got them, you've got them, we all have them. And if you'd like me to, I can begin, Jason, or if you've got the list, to start.
All right, I'll jump right in. So that first one,
Yeah, go ahead.
first question on the observations that there's trees down that are not in the travel portion of the road, but within the road right away. So our policy is that trees need to be pushed off the road out so they're not on the road any longer. So that observation is probably correct. And all that means is that we're following our policy, which is a good thing. But the education piece here is those trees that are within the right of way, I think need to be, it needs to be understood that our right of way is actually statutory right of way. So it's an easement for road purposes. So those aren't our trees. Berrien County does not own any trees in our right of way. Those are the property owner's tree. So when it falls down and we push it off, it's their tree and it's their responsibility to take care of. So that's why our policy is to push it off the travel portion of the road to make sure the travel portion is safe.
Can I kind of follow up on that a little bit, Jason?
Sure.
I think the question here is the process and timeline for removing those trees. Because you've told us before that when when a tree falls into the traveled portion of the roadway, for emergency purposes, your crews go out and they will push the tree, limbs, debris, whatever, off of the traveled portion of the roadway to at least get the traffic open. And then you said, you've told us that that you talked to the homeowner of where that tree is to see if they want the wood. Because if it's still within the road right away, even though it's not on the traveled portion, and if the homeowner wants it, you let them clean it up and take care of it. If they don't want it, then you said your people will take care of it. And so I think the question is, are you still following that process? And then what is the timeline? So that I think the ultimate question here within this question is, how does a tree or a limb sit within the right of way for months on end? Isn't there a process and a timeline for removal? Because once you've asked the homeowner and they say, yeah, we'll take care of it, is there a follow-up? Is there any timeline that those homeowners are put under to make sure that the tree is removed in a timely fashion to clear the right of way?
So I do have a tool in my toolbox to compel a property owner to remove a tree that is theirs that has fallen that we have pushed off the road. So I don't use it very often. I think I've only used it once. And that's in the motor vehicle code, and it gives the road department the authority to say, please remove this within, and we can say within a week, whatever's reasonable. If you don't, we will remove it and send you the bill. So typically, as long as the tree is not causing a safety issue and is off the road, it's not our tree, and we just expect the property owner to do it on their timeline.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that addresses that question. Unless any of the committee members have a follow-up, I think that answers it.
Jim, I do, if it's okay. I apologize. Number one, for some reason, my computer said it had to shut down, that there was an error. So I was off. So you may have already addressed this. And with the right of way is something that was a question I've been asked a number of times already. And so how do you address it when it's in our right of way? So you've stated to us that, you've got to be able to clear some of the edge of the road, things like that. So if the tree is in our right of way, that 30, I think it's 33 feet, is that correct, from the center of the road? How is that addressed?
So 98% of our right of way is statutory right of way, which is an easement. So if there is a tree that fell down and it's in the easement, it's the property owner's tree, it's not Berrien County's tree. And as long as it's not posing a safety issue and it's pushed off the road, it's the property owner's responsibility to remove it. If we think it's a safety issue, we can compel the property owner to remove it, or we can do it ourselves and bill them. We don't typically do that just because that seems kind of heavy-handed. We push it off the road and the road's safe. It's outside of that first 10 feet of safety zone. And so then we go, well, if the property owner wants to leave it there, it's outside of that initial safety zone, then we're silent on it at that point.
Okay, so even if it's in the right of way, it's the property owner's problem?
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Jason, if you could just clarify for me, you said 10 feet of safety zone, 10 feet
So
from where?
From the white line, in essence, there's a safety zone, and it's actually calculated based on speed. So it could be, as 5 feet, it could be as much as 10. But in essence, that's kind of the engineering side of it. Where is that tree? What are the speeds? What is it? There's a lot to it. But in essence, it's not our tree. We pushed it off the road. It's not within the shoulder. and we're pretty safe in assuming that things are good. There's no liability on our standpoint to if it's outside of that to deal with it.
Okay, so the 10 feet of safety zone is 10 feet from the center line.
No, from the white line, from the edge, not the yellow.
Okay,
What
okay.
about the neighborhoods that don't have the white line?
Thanks for that clarification.
Right. I think you could just say the edge of the road. Yeah, edge of the road
Okay.
generally.
10 feet from the edge of the road. Okay.
Yeah, that's the rule of thumb. That's what we're looking for.
But technically, the right of way is 33 feet from the center, correct?
Yep, more often than not, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and there's things like if people put in like a really heavy duty mailbox that's a solid steel I-beam that would stop a cement truck in its tracks, that's illegal. Like we can tell that person to remove that because that's a safety hazard. It's within, right next to the edge of the road. It's an obstruction. And if they don't, then we can say, per the motor vehicle code, this section, you have an unsafe obstruction within the right of way. Please remove. You have 2 weeks. If not, we'll do it and bill you.
You're referring to
You don't
those.
have to do it very often, but that's
You're referring to those mailboxes constructed to withstand a baseball bat hit, correct?
right. Yes, exactly. Or a tank.
Okay, thank you, Jason. All right, move on to the next one, please.
So no, we do not have a contract with the state to plow any state roads. So we do not plow US 12 or other state trunk lines.
How about the visibility issues, number 2?
Oh yeah, so I was already jumping down. So yeah, so visibility, our foremen are out driving around and they're looking. We certainly have areas where we know we have clear vision corners that we take care of with our plowing. But honestly, our staff is out and about and we're looking all the time for these areas. But if a property owner, right nearby, it says, when I pull into my subdivision, there's this tree, or when I'm trying to pull out, it's always hard to see. That's a great service request because it might take us a couple weeks before we drive that area to see it. So that's a really good service request. If there's an area where you think it's unsafe, you can't see, let us know because we want to know those things as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, move on.
All right, so no, we don't plow state trunk lines. And then kind of the presentation talked about prioritization of the busiest roads first, which are our county primaries, and going from there. And we kind of talked about how we set things up with our night crew and our full staffed day crew. Yeah, we use the same equipment on county.
The request in that particular question, is that available or is that quite extensive, asking for because the main question there is, how do you determine what roads get plowed first? And you've expressed it's primaries, it's traffic count. So it kind of comes back to, okay, can you provide us with the documentation to say this is where this road is getting done first because of the traffic count and because it's a primary road?
Yeah, we can. So all that information's online. I mean, we don't have our snow routes online, but we do have what the county primary is. So if you're on our website and you click, township maps, it gives the certification maps. Here's the primaries, here's the locals. And then obviously we have subdivision maps as well. But right off the bat, you can see what roads are which. And then also online, we have our average annual daily traffic, our ADT maps or traffic count maps. So you can find the traffic count on almost every road because we don't do traffic counts every single year for every road, but we do traffic counts every year and we add it to that map. So if you want to know what the ADT of Red Arrow is, you can click on it and it'll show you in several different areas what the average daily traffic are. So you know where's Red Arrow the busiest. Our maps will show you where that is.
Okay, but we would have to do that individually online and research that information. Don't you already have this information in a database somewhere?
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's what we're doing is sharing our database with you. So I guess if I think what you're getting at, like Washington Avenue and Linco, those are very busy county local roads. They're not county primaries, but they're county local, so, or a secondary road. So we do hit those very, very quick. Maybe even before we hit another primary in that particular person's plow route, because he knows everyone's taking Washington to work. So I'm gonna hit that first before I hit the county primary way over on Meadowbrook. Does that, do you see where I'm going? So yeah, that's,
Yeah, that makes sense.
so that driver knows, and those are the discussions that we have, like, here's where the people are going to work, here's where the schools are, those kind of things. I was driving that point home that we're primaries first and then secondaries. There are exceptions to that. And it is exactly what you're drilling down to, because we know there's more traffic over here. But again, every event is different. It's heavy, wet snow, it's light snow, it's wind, it's no wind, it's 28 degrees, it's 18 degrees. Like, all that plays into the factor of how we're dealing with that snow event.
Okay, I think that's a sufficient answer on that particular question, but just to kind of follow up on that a little bit, this information is garnered at your office and then disseminated to the garages, correct?
Yeah, so we have the garage foreman say, here is your plow route, here's the county primaries, they're first, here's county secondaries, second.
Right, but the foreman is getting that information from your office, your main office.
Yep, exactly.
Gotcha.
And then loosely, anybody can go online and find where the primaries are, where the secondaries, and find all of our traffic count data. It's all right there. So.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Number 3.
So yes, we use the same equipment. There are some subdivisions that the roads are very narrow and really small, so we don't send our tandem axle trucks down there. It'll be the single axle. I think there's a couple subdivisions where we actually send a 1-ton down just to take care of snow. But in essence, it's the same equipment for all the areas. And we have been doing some new things. Like I alluded to this last event, we pre-treated the roads. So we put down a brine solution where it was sprayed on, just the salt water sprayed onto the roads. So we did that late afternoon. So we knew when it started snowing that night that on those routes, the snow wouldn't stick. It wouldn't bind to the road. So it would be easy to scrape it off at 4 o'clock when we were there scraping. So things like that make us more efficient, make it easier to get snow and ice off the road. Plus, I believe we have 10 trucks now that we call saddle tanks, which I think it's 40-gallon saddle tank on either side that carry that brine solution that we can spray that right onto the salt sand mixture to really get it to activate the salt sand to really take care of ice. So that's another tool in our toolbox to make us more efficient at snow and ice removal. And we just got those up and running last year. So we're adding these pieces to our fleet as we go. And then certainly engaging our drivers that, hey, you have these tools, but what we try to do is give them the parameters of how we want them to work. But then, it's their route. They take pride in what they do. I mean, their family knows that that's their route. Their coworkers know that that's their route. So we're excited to give these tools to these guys so they can get out there and apply it to what they do, which is and to apply it to their skill set, which is be able to drive an incredibly large truck with multiple blades down roads inches away from people's mailboxes.
Okay, why don't you go to number 4 and then we'll pause and see if there's any follow-up questions regarding subdivisions.
Okay, so it doesn't matter either way. It's whether there's a curb or no curb in a subdivision. We're pretty much plowing the road. I think the subdivision, the biggest issue we have there's people that mow their yard right up to the edge of the road, And if our plow blade catches a little bit of that grass and kind of rolls up some sod, the, those property owners usually get pretty upset because they think we're messing with their yard, even though we do have the 33 feet. I mean, we probably have another 15 feet into their yard that is technically for road purposes. We don't really put the wing blade down to really push things back in people's yards because in subdivisions as much, just because it can cause problems.
Okay, are there any follow-up questions from the committee members on the answer or questions 3 and 4?
I do
Okay.
want to say something positive
Go
about
ahead,
snow in the neighborhoods. I've been getting pretty good reports. They kind of like, in the neighborhood I am, they kind of like the way things are done. So, and there again, I want to give the county a plus to say they think they're doing a good job.
Well, thank you.
Like I say, I just don't want to just tell you the complaints, but sometimes we need to know when we're doing good. Okay, so good reports, but I'm finding out something about this 8 foot and the edge of the road that I might have something to say, but
Okay.
I'll put it in the request. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Don.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, let's go on to number 5 then, Jason.
All right, so blade pressure. That's getting into the weeds a little bit here, but so the operator that's driving the truck, it's their responsibility. It's their route. We do give them guidance in terms of certainly early in the year. We don't want to put wing blades down on shoulders because the shoulder's not frozen yet. So we'll say stay on the hard surface and keep the wings in, and we'll, because we don't want to scrape up the edge of the road. And then from the actual blade pressure, we do between 0 pounds, because sometimes we might say keep the blade an inch off the ground, so there's no pressure. You don't even have it touching the ground, because obviously there's a balance. I mean, we could put a lot of pressure on it and we could ruin our roads a lot quicker, or we could put less pressure and then allow for a little bit of snow on the road. So in essence, I mean, the detail, it's between 0 and 500 pounds of pressure, but no more than that. That's what we go for. And as drivers get more experienced and as they work through things, they're working with their foreman, and their foreman's checking their routes and looking at what they do and giving them feedback.
Okay, thanks. Number 6.
So it's the garage foreman is the one that's doing the training with our seasoned staff. So between the whoever has the most experience in that garage and the garage foreman, they're training new plow drivers. They're driving in the truck with them. They're having them drive in their truck when they go. So there's a lot of seat time with another driver before they're just sent out to do it by themselves. Certainly we want our most seasoned drivers on our routes that are the busiest, and certainly the most subdivisions that are the most heavily populated areas, because those are the ones that take the most skill. We'll start sometimes our seasonal temporary workers or our new drivers closer to the garage and on a more rural route, so we can really keep an eye on them and give them feedback kind of during their route, as opposed to giving a feedback in a day or two later.
Okay, does that also apply to full-time staff? Is there a training program?
Yeah, so we do train and we do talk, but it's not as there is a training school that we sent some people to last year up in Grand Rapids, a few-day training school. I know MDOT puts on some stuff, and I talked to Kalamazoo County, so I try to get people to that. This year we didn't because of COVID. I don't even know if they actually had it, but there is a yearly training school that gives you a lot of the feedback and that you need, which is good. It gives you the knowledge, but the actual practice of doing the work requires seat time.
Can I ask
Okay.
a question?
Thanks, Jason. Any follow-up questions?
Yes, can I ask a question?
Yes.
You said very seasoned staff. How many new plow drivers do we have this winter?
A lot.
lot,
I
okay.
don't have the number off the top of my head, but I can give that to you tomorrow morning. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's totally fine, Jason. That's not a problem. I'm just, because if you're saying we have a very seasoned staff, but we have a lot of new drivers, that's kind of
Well,
conflicting.
Yeah, so our staff is not as seasoned as it used to be. How's that? I said
Okay.
in the last 4 years, we've lost a lot. So I know Eau Claire Garage, I think, has 4 new drivers. And out of 10, that's quite a bit.
Perfect. And if you could give that to me by the 4 different garages tomorrow, that would be great.
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely.
I like to talk about some of these seasoned driver. I kind of know some of the old drivers that retired. and like I say, I kind of like go and talk to them and I kind of like get their input. But one of the things they were saying to me that some of them retired and they don't want to be retired. But now they come back and they say that the county won't use them. So my thing is very seasoned drivers at that point and they got the experience. And it's not going to be like we got to pay them overtime. How come we don't use our past experience to want to come back and do something?
So we have open positions, so we can certainly interview them and get them back. And then our temporary positions, we have open temps. Those are night positions, though. So yeah, tell them to call me. I mean,
okay, I'm just going back. You know what? I'm just going back and reporting on what they tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know how much truth is into it, but I'm relaying what was said to me. So I'm not saying that it's not like, but now that you said that, I'll relay what you said.
Okay, good,
Okay.
good. Well, we want good people.
How can you beat experience?
Right, you can't. You can't.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you're sitting around having coffee with them, Don, just tell them to call Jason.
Well, I got them on speed dial.
There
As
you
soon as
go.
I'm done, I'm gonna call them. Thank
You
you.
know what?
All right.
I'll drive a truck to their house and drop it off.
Well,
Okay.
okay. Well,
I have to interject. There's a process. Okay.
right.
Okay, I think you covered 7. You're going to provide us with a flow chart, correct?
Yep, I can do that.
Okay. And number 7, or the last question, is obviously mine because I'm the only one around long enough to remember the conversation on the GPSs. They still all equipped? They're still all working?
Yep. Everything's working good. I'm not going to say great. I mean, this equipment is getting a little bit older. We actually just, Brian stopped by last week and we were showing him in our office. We were in Don's office and we were looking at some information. So the GPS data does help us understand where we've been and the time between how often they're on that road and when did they get back to it again. So it's good data to have, and it is getting a little bit older. So we're looking into what's the next iteration of the GPS system and how is it going to be used.
Okay. And I remember a conversation, and this is going back at least a year ago, when we were talking about the GPS system, to have something similar to what MDOT has, where you could go online and you could track the snowplow trucks and see where they're at. And then we also had further discussions about the video, where MDOT, you can actually click on a snowplow truck and see him live plowing snow. Was there any more discussions about, take them one at a time, the GPS and then the video?
So yes, my goal, the system we have now isn't a system that can go live. So if I'm going to re-up with this particular company or bring it to you guys to discuss it with you, what's the benefit, what's the cost? So the average person can just hop online and see where the plows are. I mean, we can have that discussion, get your feedback on it. Right now, I think understanding, us using the information to understand how long did it take that person to get through their route? Is there any feedback we can give them based on the route and how they ran it? it's a good tool, but it's not something that I think that we're at a point where we can really use it to its fullest just yet. Just because there's more training required and more equipment required and more cost to get the equipment to where you really could start using it in different ways. So I think right now, bare minimum, having the locator so we know where they are, we know if their blade's up or down, so if they're scraping or not, just so we can track to see how long, and I think it gives us our speeds too, which ties into how long did it take. So we're using bare minimum and it's helpful.
Okay, since you used to work for MDOT, what was their rationale in putting the,
Right.
the video
So
live for the
they
citizens?
went live, I think, right after I left. And I think the thought process there was we always want, anybody in the road world wants the public to understand what we do, because it seems like it's so simple. Like everybody drives and how come you don't do this? Why don't you do that? It's really easy to poke holes in what we do. But if the more you can educate the public and the more they can see what you do, that we feel like the more value is there. So I believe that's why MDOT and certainly that's why I want to get as many posts out on our Facebook page to talk about pre-treating, or talk about shake your mailbox in the fall to make sure it's ready for the winter. All those things that if you can get enough people talking about it, certainly over coffee on the weekends, the more educated we can get the public, the better we are.
Okay, I have just one last question for you. Since you've become the director, have you changed any of the garage service areas?
So no, the service areas I think have been in place. I got a map on my wall. I can't see it. We might have changed it about 5 years ago, right down in Niles. So the all clear area went to the northern city limit of Niles and north, but we ended up changing it not too long ago. So it encapsulated pretty much all of Niles Township. Does that make sense? That's the only change. I think everything else has been the same for a decade. And that was probably right before
All right, thanks for that, Jason. Are there any other questions from the committee members?
Well, I thought I was on mute, but I'm not. I just want to kind of say I kind of think some things need to change. I mean, I kind of like the way I do like what Barron County's doing, and we're a leader, and they do a great job of plowing. But I can't see not plowing the primary roads, especially with this lake effect we're having. And we made some provisions years ago because of the cut in funding. But we have since then got some more money, I do believe. So my thing, I want to go back into safety. So if things can change to this committee and make a recommendation, I would make a recommendation that these primary roads become a asset, or let's say become primary. Let's take care of them. I don't care about, I don't like that 430 cutoff, because we can't tell this lake effect to quit at 430. And like I say, I'm more about safety than I am anything. If we can save one life, that makes a lot. If at the point, so taking into consideration where we at and we right on the lake, we got to take in consideration this lake effect. It's going to happen whether you want it or not. So the thing is, now things have changed. Let's change a little. Now, I can't see it plowing 24 hours, but if we're primary gonna be first, let's make primary first. So let's take care of primary. That's, in my opinion, that's my thought on this right here. So you do what you want to do, but everybody got an opinion. And I just gave you mine. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Don.
I've got to leave in about 10 minutes because I've got another appointment, but I just want to tell Jason that I just want to throw this out there. Our roads are fantastic up in our end of the county. Plow goes by my house about 4 times every day between 7 o'clock and noon. It's a shortcut between north of Tacoma and Watervliet, and it's constantly driven on all day long. Gets a lot of traffic, and people speed on it even when it's got snow, and it's supposed to be 25. how people don't get hurt, I don't know, but still the roads are in good shape. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think you've done a fantastic job, Jason. And I just want to throw that out there. I know our supervisors and all the townships out here are very happy with working you in the summer and in the winter. I hate to see us spend every penny scraping the roads in the winter when then we don't have money because people are going to complain because the roads are bad in the summer. It all comes out of the same pot. There's not any extra money there to fix the roads if we spend it all in the winter. So it's a tough situation, but I just like to say, I think, the road department's done a great job up here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'll make sure I pass it along because these guys are super dedicated, and without them, we're in big trouble. So I will definitely pass that along. Thank you.
They don't see me wave, but I wave to them every day.
Yeah, and Jason, I don't misinterpret today's meeting. It's not to be critical. It's to get a better understanding.
Yeah.
I think your department, your guys are doing an excellent job, and they've got a very difficult job to do. But the two commissioners mentioned budget. Now, your budget's what, 26 million plus or minus 26?
Yeah. So it's 18 million is the MTF, and that's the only budget we can use for maintenance. That when it gets up to almost 26, that's with federal and state project dollars that are not maintenance oriented.
Okay, so your base is 18 mil plus whatever, and the county general fund doesn't contribute a dime to that, correct?
That's correct.
Well, I'm glad I asked the question considering your answer, because I didn't think we did, but because you're
No,
51 money.
I always wanted to come to you guys and ask for money, but I was told not to. No, I get it. We're happy with the budget we have, and we do the best we can with it. But you're right. It comes down to money. That's and what's the level of service that you're trying to get. I mean, if you want bare pavement, dry pavement, I mean, we can rent those things that they have at the Indy 500 that heats the track up and blows 200 miles an hour breeze. I mean, you could do all these things, but at what cost? So that's the balancing point. We're trying to find that balancing point.
Yeah, and we understand that, Jason. And for time constraints, if there's nothing else for Jason, I would kind of like to move on in the agenda. So thanks again, Jason. Appreciate your time this morning or this afternoon. Are there any more questions? If not, I'm going to kick him loose.
All right, and I'm always available, my team, and we'll help educate as best we can. So thank you.
Okay, thanks again, Jason.
All right, take care.
Moving on to the agenda. We have 1, 2, 3. We have 4 resolutions to move forward. Annette, is that correct?
Do you want to approve the minutes of your meeting from January 21?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that.
Did I not have the minutes from your January 21st meeting? You didn't do that yet, right? Okay.
I
Sorry.
didn't do that.
It's in.
I remember.
Can I do that first, Annette?
Yes.
Okay. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? And if so, changes? Would someone like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Hey, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Curran, unmute.
I'm sorry, yes.
Commissioner Meeks,
Yes.
Commissioner Volrath,
Yes.
and Commissioner Warfel.
Yes.
You have 4 yeas.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and that resolutions, or am I supposed to look at Jennifer for resolutions? Which one?
I have them, so if you want me to just go, is it all right if I just go one by one and then you just holler at me if you got a question? Does that work?
Yeah, fine, go right ahead.
Oh, okay. So the first one is A2101155, and that was for the Marine Safety Grant. We apply for this every year for that division of the Sheriff's Department. And so this is just the authorization for them to move forward with the application for the grant.
Okay, any objections from the committee members? Okay, next one, Annette.
I think actually one of the lists you may have still has the A2102158, which is the FOC remodel. We've addressed that during the Board of Commissioners meeting, that that's not ready to go yet, and will come next week to the full board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And this is the other, the next two are for 911. These are the ones that Caitlin has addressed with both you guys and with the Finance Committee. And A2102159 and A2102160. First one is for Motorola, the second one is for Telrad.
Okay, any objections from the committee members on moving those resolutions forward?
None.
Okay, very good. They're moved forward then, Annette.
And then it looks like I left one off that I should have included. Rocky, when he submitted your, the plan, the contract for the vendors, so we needed to push that one through for today, but there is one more from Emergency Management. Again, this is a standard resolution that we do, and Commissioner Volrath came in and signed the document that we needed. This is to apply for the grant funding for the Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant. We apply for this every year. It's made available to all local emergency planning committees. It looks like it could be about $1,500 is the standard on that. And so we submit this application to them for the grant, and then if we receive it, we will come back in the form of a resolution to approve and accept the grant funding, and then authorize that to be signed by the chair.
Okay, very good. Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's it.
You do a motion on all three, or all of them?
We don't need a motion, I just need your consensus to move them forward to the board.
I'm good.
Yeah, we usually don't really do it by consent, Dave.
Okay. I'm good. Good.
Okay. Everybody's good with it. We will move on to the full board. Hey, Annette, do you have anything else besides public comments?
I don't. Brian, did you have anything?
Yeah, so Commissioners, one thing that we didn't cover while Jason was still on the screen, and just to bring you up to speed on, is I've toured all of the facilities that the county controls as far as road department. And we've got our two new commissioners coming out to tour his Napier garage tomorrow. What you'll notice at the Napier garage is just 1950s construction. That is very much the case at all of the garages, Bakertown, Eau Claire, and Baroda. So something that I've been asking Jason to work on, and I'm helping him with, is an RFP for a capital improvement, or essentially just a capital improvement plan that takes a look at all of those properties, determines what, if any, improvement should be done to the site, if renovation is a good idea or if new construction is a better idea. But then also part of that analysis is taking a look at the locations of the garages, and do their current locations make sense with our current population trends. Commissioners Werfel and Bell, I'll be working to get them down to the maintenance garages. And I think the minute you pull into, say, the Eau Claire garages, you just notice that it's landlocked. Bakertown and Buchanan is the opposite, a ton of property. And then Baroda has some property issues. So that's something that I want to keep on the admin committee's radar, is that we need to get a project like this out to bid. We need to get a contractor in to assist with asking some tough questions on, do our locations make the most sense to ensure that we're doing the very best job on maintenance. I don't have a lot to report on this. I just wanted to make sure that it was on your radar. I hope that as we get into the spring, we'll have an RFP issued, and that we'll be able to get this committee actively working on that question. Those are my comments, sir.
Okay, thanks for that, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anything from the committee member? Okay, Annette, was there any public comments?
There is.
And-
Just one second.
And Julie did put her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Julie, go ahead first and while Annette's.
I would just like to suggest, just for the, at least the near future, that maybe once a month we have the road commission on, or the road department on our agenda, just to do a quick update based on those issues that you're talking about, Brian, and just to stay on top of anything and where we can help Jason.
Yeah, something that I've noticed since coming here in this summer is the Zoom-in atmosphere. It appears to be our new normal for quite a while. So trying to get your department heads back on a rotating basis, talking with you is something we can work on. But it's also not without its challenges, as we've seen the last 2 days. Commissioner, I absolutely hear you, and I know that some of these simmering issues on maintenance concerns, we can keep them from becoming an all-out fire if you all are talking with Jason and all of the other departments on a more regular basis.
Normally, we meet with those monthly, Julie, and under normal circumstances, we have someone coming in every month, every week to talk to us, but we haven't been able to do that for the last year because of our virtual worlds. But yeah, it's nice when we can sit down with them and talk to those things, and because we always have questions, and when they add up like they do after months and months, it gets to be, sometimes overpowering, overwhelming for, it sounds like we're attacking them. We're trying not to, but questions come up and we don't see them like we used to.
Yeah.
I mean, your reporting schedule would have been something that you guys would have talked about during your organizational meeting, where who we're going to have coming and when. And I suppose if you want to realign the way that your meetings are being held right now, I mean, that's entirely up to you guys. If you wanted to go back to a regular meeting schedule with having appointments and people coming in and talking to you, I mean, certainly that would be.
It's hard to do when we're meeting on so many different days.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta remember, we
Their
have.
schedule.
Yeah, and you gotta remember, we have more than just one department, more than the road department. We've got 7, 8, 9 different departments that report to us. So I think that's a discussion we may have with the chair, because it is difficult during these the Zoom time of being as efficient as we can be. So we may have that discussion with the chair, but under normal circumstances, we would meet on a regular basis.
Yeah, and it's not, I don't know that every department we need to see every month. Just, I think the road department is enough that, a 10-minute discussion in one of our meetings each month might be warranted.
Some of them we do quarterly, some of them are every other month, some of them are every month. It depends on the departments and how much activity they have going on all the time.
That's true. Thanks, Dave. Okay, do you have any public comments for us?
I do. I have to go back to this other screen then. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So Tony Benhart from Sodas Township, and he had also asked this question during the Personnel and Human Services meeting, because that's when that was discussed, but he also wants that question, or at least that statement brought up here as well. So the question was about the new employee request and how many years experience does this new person have, and is she a licensed surveyor in Michigan? We need one that has experience and can design and supervise the projects. And then he said, remember that every commissioner is a road commissioner and there needs to be more oversight over the road department.
Are there any others?
I don't believe so. I think you're good.
Okay, thank you, Annette. Anything else for us, Brian?
No, sir.
Anything from the committee members? Okay, not hearing any.
Are we set for next week? Are we having any meeting next week, John?
Do you have an admin scheduled for us, Annette or Brian, next week?
I don't think I have anything.
mean, the only thing would be the FOC resolution, which you guys have already talked about that a couple of different times, and there was a memo that really kind of already approved the project anyway. It's just a matter of saying we can put the signature on the contracts. So I don't know that you need to meet about that. I suppose that's up to you, whether you want to have that conversation or not.
Okay, well, if anything else comes up and we need to meet, just let me know on that. But otherwise, if it is the way it is as of today, we do not need to meet.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Nothing else before the committee?
You want me to stop?
No,
Okay, the
I'm
meeting is
good.
adjourned.
See y'all.
Bye.
Thank you all.